Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Friday, which means we have our Friday news dump coming out, which means we are going to tell you all about what's going on before the weekend hits so you can be blissfully ignorant of what's happening in the world and have a nice and chill weekend. This is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our news 10 to 15 minutes before we start when we haven't had any caffeine. So, what is going on our headlines for this weekend? Today on Before Coffee, Spain's Prime Minister targets non-EU nationals when buying property. Bulgaria's parliament approves new government after months of coalition talks.
And welcome from the United States, where we ask the question, is there a ninth planet? It's out there. Can we find it? We think we got a way to find it.
Russian officer jailed for accidentally shooting down own helicopter in Crimea. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk accuses Russia of planning acts of terrorism against airlines around the world.
And the world is a lot less funny today as we lost Mr. Baseball. Bob Uecker has passed away at 90.
David Lynch, the great American surrealist who made experimentalism mainstream, dies at 78.
And it's Popeye the Sailor Man Day, January 17th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
Popeye the Sailor Man. I love spinach. I never had a problem with spinach. I didn't need Popeye to convince me to like spinach.
Just strong to the finish.
Yeah.
Because you
I've always liked it. Never had a problem with vegetables, I guess. Maybe when I was young, I had problems with them, but as a teenager or whatever, I never had problems with vegetables. Except for when they made those broccoli or like the carrots really, really squishy. You know, they just cooked them too long, so they had no snap anymore, and they were just like mush. That's when I had a problem with vegetables. Like, come on, this isn't even appetizing to put in your mouth. It's like baby food. Anyways, let's talk about Spain. There's a housing crisis all over Europe. Definitely in the Netherlands, and definitely in Spain, and also Portugal, a lot of places. And you would think, oh, is it because of, people aren't building enough houses, or there's too many, I don't know. It's immigrants. They're blaming the immigrants again. Okay, you got me. Of course, this time it's expats. Those people who don't get called immigrants because they're white are staking all the houses in Spain, especially in big cities and tourist areas. This is from SRF, which I don't know what that stands for, by Oscar Gonzalez, I think? Maybe just SRF itself. SRF itself is reporting this. Now Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has presented a package of 12 measures. In future, for example, non-EU foreigners will have to pay up to 100% tax on the value of their property if they buy a house or apartment in Spain. Denmark and Canada have a similar approach. They would also affect the Swiss and British nationals. It is still just a plan with uncertain prospects. In large cities like Barcelona in particular, rents have risen by 60% in the last 10 years, and property prices by a good 40%. Is that through necessity or through greed? I don't know. More than half of income goes into housing. Single earners can hardly afford an apartment. Families move to the outskirts of the city with long commutes. Young workers have to stay at home because their salary is not enough to rent their own apartment. So, in 2024, 27,000 apartments and houses were sold to non-EU foreigners in Spain, as freelance journalist Julia Macher explained in Barcelona. But it is a popular holiday region such as the Balearic Islands or the Canary Islands. More than a third of all apartments sold go mostly to wealthy foreigners. This reduces the availability of living space and drives up prices. Oh, so there you go. It is the immigrants, but not the immigrants living there. It's the immigrants who are basically buying up all the land and saying, now, I'm going to make all the money. Ha 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 ha. Because people will want to live in these houses. And I'll hike up the prices. Where was I? Okay. In those regions, Spaniards with an average salary can hardly afford their own apartment, which is causing great discontent. Accordingly, Sanchez is also considering taxing the rental of holiday apartments more heavily. So, the left-wing overall passage is a measure of 100% tax on non-EU foreigners that has so far been criticized mainly by industry rent representatives from the coastal regions. Hey, if you take our taxes, our money will be gone. There are the most non-EU foreigners in Spain buy properties that normal Spaniards cannot afford. See, you need us. Yeah, maybe because you drove up the prices. That's why only rich foreigners can afford them. Did you think about that? See, I'm so tired of this idea that, this house has to sell for, I don't know, 400K. It has to, okay? The bank told me that's how much it is priced at. Well, guess what? Sometimes you don't always get what you want. And on a free market, which we're supposed to be using, if somebody doesn't buy your property, what do? You lower the prices. And you lower the prices. And then you lower the prices until somebody buys it. You don't just go, hey, this house is supposed to sell for 40K, 400K, and if I don't get that much, then I won't sell it at all. Fuck you guys, making me pay 100% tax. It's because nobody will buy these except for foreigners. In addition, the attention of the Spanish media and politicians therefore focused on Sanchez's overall package. This includes the construction of more social housing. In addition, the establishment of a state agency for housing construction, which would have priority in the purchase of apartments and building land. Taxes for landlords would fall if they keep their rents within the reference range. Yeah, if you keep your rent high, we're going to tax you high. How about that? We can just all those extra profits you're getting from those high rent. Thank you. Put them back into the government. The conservative opposing criticizes the measures partly as interventionalist, but also copied. The conservatives presented their own housing program at the weekend. It aims to promote housing construction primarily through liberal land reform and tax cuts. Of course it does. They're conservatives. Since 2024, Spain has had a new housing law with a rent cap. Regional governments can cap prices in particularly tense areas, but the predominantly conservative government does not allow a socialist government's law. The rent cap currently only applies in Catalonia. It is not certain that Sanchez and his minority government will find enough votes for his new overall package in Parliament. He knows that. Accordingly, he is appealing to conservatives to go along with the rent cap. This works in Barcelona, and it also causes supply to decline further. A quick solution is not in sight, Mocker estimates. So they're trying to fix this housing problem by making foreigners the ones who take all the blame. So maybe the conservatives will agree. Hey, don't worry, we're not raising the tax for Spanish citizens, we're raising it for Swiss and British citizens. Why do you care about those guys? Who cares? They're not even from here. I guess that's the idea, at least. In more trying to make a government work news, because that's kind of what the Spanish are doing, Bulgaria has finally set up a coalition after months of talks. This is on Eurosativ by Georgi Gotev. Bulgaria's parliament approved on Thursday a cabinet led by Rosen Zelyaskov, a former parliament speaker, ending months of negotiations on forming a coalition government. A center-right GERB party came first following a snap election in October, the seventh held in Bulgaria in 4 years, but has not had to hold tough talks with other political parties to form a government. 125 lawmakers in the 240-seat legislature approved Zelyazkov's proposed cabinet on Thursday, which was yesterday, the 16th of January, opening the way for a new government to take office. GERB, or GERB's coalition partners, are the pro-Russian Bulgarian Socialist Party. That's weird. That's a weird combo there. They love Russia and they're also socialist. Sure they are, just like the Nazis were socialists. The populists There Is Such a People, led by former TV presenter Salvi Trifonov. Another party run by some person who was on TV. The three forces falling short of the 121 MPs needed for a majority. Ahmet Dogan's party, which represents the ethnic Turkish minority, said it would support the coalition without being part of it. Why, though? I don't know, wouldn't Bulgarian... I don't know. Maybe I don't know anything about Bulgarian and Turkish people, but I feel like, you know, pro-Russians aren't a fan of Turkish people. Maybe they are. A coalition between a center-right, center-left, and populist force appears unlikely. However, commentators say that the parties behind Zelensky's cabinet share important similarities: conservative thinking and a national populist bias. Yeah, we got the populism, baby! In this coalition blocks, the difference lies in the pro-Kremlin sympathies, which are strongly expressed in the Socialist Party and less so in others. Bulgaria needs a regular government that will implement policy supporting the democratic rule of law, the competitiveness of the economy, security, and protecting citizens' and social rights, Zelensky told the parliament ahead of the vote. Zelensky pledged that his government would help the country enter the Eurozone. The country is indeed very close to meeting the criteria for ascension, but public opinion remains divided, fearing a price rise. Okay, you guys want to join the Eurozone, but also you have a pro-Russian party in your coalition. Usually those people want to join the new Russian Federation that's being it's totally a real thing. I'm actually making it up, but if it happened, in 10 years, if there's a Russian Federation full of, you know, states that are not Russia,
Right.
I would not be surprised. All the remaining parties will be in opposition. The leader of the far right and ultra-nationalist Yazrazdana party, Kostadin Kostadinov, said that the new government begins with 2 betrayals and will end with 2 funerals of the Socialist Party and There Is Such a People. According to him, the voters of these 2 formations have been deceived and they will look for an alternative in the next elections. Nikolay Denko, former prime minister from the reformist We Continue the Change, said his force will be constructive and critical opposition. We will have experts for each minister to monitor their actions, said Kirill Petkov, co-president of We Continue the Change, Democratic Bulgaria. Radostin, I love their party names, by the way. Their party names are like, this is what we want to do. You know, We Continue the Change. Radostin Vasilev from the small populist party MEK, which soared, declared the cabinet a government of absolute unprincipledness. Delyan Pevsky, leader of the Movement for Rights and Freedoms New Beginnings Party, which fights for the ethnic minorities electorate, said, something very unclean was finally born. He ironically congratulated Boyko Borisov, the leader of GERB, or GERB, for bringing together those who have denied him for years. Look at you guys, all getting together for your hate for, I guess, Borisov. What does GERB stand for? It must also have a cool name. Citizens for European Development of Bulgaria. Okay, so the people who want to join the Eurozone, the people who are pro-Russian, and then some just, I guess, general conservatives, right? Oh, right. The people and the populists, There Is Such a People, which is led by a TV presenter, all got together to create a coalition government. And I can see, now that I know all of that, that does not seem like a fitting relationship between ideals. I definitely don't know. But they said they have the support of the Turkish party as well, the Turkish minority. So maybe they'll be able to pass some stuff, but I guess only time will tell when it comes to coalition governments that probably have to argue for 9 months just to make a government run. So there's the news from Bulgaria.
About which people to hate.
Yeah. It's like, well, we can decide we hate who? People who don't want to join the EU? People who hate Russia?
Yeah.
Are those all the same people? I don't think so. People who hate Turkish people?
Yeah, the only thing that unites countries.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The only thing that unites countries is things that they hate.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But there's our stories from Spain and their foreign ownership of housing tax that might go through in Bulgaria's new coalition. Onto your story.
All right, it's just a story I've been holding on for like all week because it was kind of long to press into other happening stories.
Yeah.
It wasn't themed on any of our other shows. This is about, there's a 9th planet out there, and it's not Pluto. Pluto's not a planet. It's too small. It's just a thing that's orbits the sun. That's really bigger than an asteroid. DailyGalaxy.com has a story. Breakthrough on Planet X hunt. New telescope could uncover solar system's biggest mystery. There is no person's name on this article. The concept of Planet X or Planet 9 has captivated astronomers for decades. This hypothetical planet, theorized to be 7 times the mass of Earth, could provide answers to some of the most puzzling phenomena observed in the outer
7 times
solar system. Yeah, well, it's orbiting far beyond Neptune. Planet X is believed to reside in a region where the sunlight barely reaches a staggering 155 billion miles from the sun. Scientists propose that its gravitational influence explains the strange orbital patterns of objects in the Kuiper Belt, a ring of icy debris and dwarf planets at the edge of the solar system. The Kuiper Belt anomalies have been a key focus of this hunt. 6 celestial objects in the region exhibit peculiar clustered orbits that suggest they are being affected by an unseen massive body. If proven, Planet X could be the missing piece of the puzzle. Or it could be just a black hole of some sort, right? The upcoming launch of the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile marks a critical turning point in the search. Scheduled to become operational in May, this state-of-the-art facility is equipped with the largest digital camera ever constructed. Its capabilities will allow astronomers to survey the southern hemisphere sky in unprecedented detail, capturing vast amounts of data over the next decade. Unlike previous efforts to locate Planet X, which relied on theoretical modeling and indirect evidence, the Rubin Observatory will focus on direct observation. Yes, maybe we can actually see it. By meticulously monitoring specific areas of the sky for faint moving objects, it could identify the elusive planet. Dr. Ed Bloomer, senior astronomer and manager of the Royal Museums Greenwich in London, emphasized the complexity of the task. It's tempting to think that since we can observe incredibly distant galaxies, detect faint gravitational waves, and even image black holes, that we should have a complete A to Z for our solar system. Relatively speaking, that's just a local neighborhood, right? But actually, it's a very difficult job trying to locate everything. Finding a planet so far from the sun presents a unique challenge. Unlike stars that emit their own light, Planet X would only reflect sunlight, making it exceptionally dim. This faintness, combined with its vast distance, has rendered it invisible to earlier efforts. The idea of Planet X was first proposed in 2016 by Michael Brown, a professor at planetary astronomy at California Institute of Technology. Brown's theory is rooted in a mathematical model suggesting that the orbits of certain Kuiper Belt objects can be best explained by the presence of a massive distant planet. Dr. Bloomer echoed the potential of such modeling. By observing the motion of other objects in the solar system, mathematical modeling suggests that there is a chance that the best explanation for their orbits is the presence of a thus far undetected planet. Now that's all pretty non-committal language, and various astronomers have strong feelings one way or another because what we're lacking is direct observation. The observatory aims to bridge this gap by delivering the first visual evidence of the planet. Still, skepticism remains. Michael Smith, a professor of astronomy at the University of Kent, highlighted the need for caution. The available data are subject to many selection effects and observational biases. Therefore, we tend not to take claims as evidence. We take the interpretations of convinced scientists as interesting with a pinch of salt. However, some of the speculations will, of course, turn out to be verified. Smith's perspective underscores the importance of balancing enthusiasm with scientific rigor. The Rubin Observatory's work will be the test of whether theoretical predictions can stand up to observational security. Despite the potential of the Rubin Observatory, astronomers face significant obstacles. Planet X's immense distance means it will unlikely to be a bright, obvious object in telescoped image, as Dr. Bloomer explains. The modeling suggests that Planet 9, if it exists, is incredibly far from the sun, and broadly speaking, the problem is that it means going to be very, very dim, like a star, say, which would be producing light. Planet 9 will only be reflecting light from our sun. Okay, we made that point a couple of times now. Even if Planet X is located, the process will not be dramatic, as one might expect. Dr. Bloomer offered a glimpse into what the discovery might look like. directly by their computer, hey, that pixel is brighter than it was a few days ago. It should make sure to check what it looks like a couple of days from now. This painstaking approach highlights the technical and logistical hurdles involved in identifying such a faint object against the vast backdrop of space. If Planet X is confirmed, it would mark one of the most significant discoveries in modern astronomy. Beyond solving the Kuiper Belt mystery, its detection would reshape our understanding of the solar system's structure and inspire new adventures of research. The implications extend beyond the scientific community. Public interest in planetary science has surged in recent years, fueled by missions to Mars, stunning images from the James Webb Space Telescope, and debates over Pluto's planetary status. The discovery of Planet X would capture global attention and further underscore humanity's enduring curiosity about the cosmos. However, Dr. Bloomer cautioned the process requires patience. A detection isn't impossible, though. You just need to monitor the right part of the sky at the right time with the right equipment. This careful balance of optimism and realism defines the ongoing research whether Planet X proves to be the genuine addition to our solar system or a hypothesis left unverified. The quest exemplifies the unyielding drive of scientists to explore the unknown. To boldly go where no man has gone before us. Lapsing into Star Trek. But there's a story on Planet 9. If it's there, we'll find it. Back to you.
The infamous planet that we shall... I mean, that makes sense, though, when you think about it, right? It takes a while to look your entire neighborhood for every little speck that's going on, right? That's what they said earlier. You'd think we got the solar system down, but we might not have it down. You know?
Aha.
Yeah. Right.
You think by now. But again, we just... this is the way science is, right? We don't declare something to be there and then try to disprove it's not there. That's what religion does.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Anyway, I sent you a clip.
Your hypothesis wrong. That's what you should do.
I sent you a clip. I sent you a movie, a video clip. And
okay.
I actually found a Tonight Show clip with Bob Uecker and Mel Brooks on at the same time. So it's a rare find. Mel Brooks still alive. Anyway, back to you.
Pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
For our next segment here, let's talk about Russia. Russia in two different instances. First, Russian officer jailed for accidentally shooting down their own helicopter in Crimea. Now, of course, we were talking about, I think yesterday, right?
Weird Wednesday.
Was it yesterday or the day before? Russia was definitely up to stuff. And
Weird Wednesday, they blew up their North Korean missile.
Yeah, they blew up a North Korean thing and said, "Oh yeah, we got attacked. It was an attack. We didn't do it ourselves." Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
No. They were celebrating destroying a missile system that without realizing. They never said they were attacked. They were celebrating it.
Yeah.
We took out air defense for Ukraine, but it was one of their own. Yeah.
Idiots. All right, let me fix this here. Camera's going sideways. Why did you do that? Just sit straight, like. Okay, we'll just do that for now. All right. Russian officer jailed for accidentally shooting down their own Crimea helicopter. This is Tim Zarozny on the Kyiv Independent. A Russian air defense officer stationed in occupied Sevastopol, Igor Pashkov, has been sentenced to 2 years and 10 months in the Gulag for shooting down a Russian army helicopter after mistaking it for a drone. I don't know how it must have been a small helicopter because drones aren't that big. A Russian army helicopter after mistaking it for a drone.
Drones are pretty big, the ones that carry weapons.
Pro-government outlet Kommersant reported on the 16th of January, which was yesterday. Russian investigative authorities charged Pashkov with violations of combat duty rules, which resulted in grave consequences. The incident occurred on the 18th in 2023 in occupied Crimea. Pashkov, while on combat duty, received a report of what he believed to be a low-flying drone. Acting on incomplete information and failing to confirm the target's identity in time, he launched a missile salvo from a TOR M2DT anti-aircraft system. The missile struck a Russian Mi-8 helicopter, which crashed into the Black Sea and killed everybody on board. Congratulations! You did it. You killed somebody. Pashkov admitted guilt in May 2024, and the prosecution sought a 7-year sentence. In the first instance, the military court sentenced him to 3 years, a term later reduced by higher court by 2 months. In addition, his prison sentence, Pashkov is barred from holding positions involving organizational or administrative function in the civil service or local government for 1 year. Honestly, sounds like he just wanted to get out of being in Crimea. I don't want to be here anymore. Maybe if I shoot down a helicopter. I mean, that only 2 years and not being allowed to become an official for 1 year. That's barely even a punishment for killing an entire crew of a helicopter.
They'll send him to the front lines as soon as he gets out.
Yeah. But and there are some. There's a comment on this article that just says cannibal orcs. I guess they ate themselves. Right? They've defeated their own helicopter.
Right on. That's right.
I think the problem here is that nobody ordered him to do it. He just took the prerogative and shot down a helicopter without asking, hey, should I shoot this down? And so he just, killed the entire crew of a helicopter. In more Russian-based news, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is actually thinking Russia's planning acts of terrorism on aircraft. This is by Jamad Hamid. It comes after Russia launched a major ballistic and cruise missile attack across Ukraine targeting energy infrastructure. Of course, they shot down the Azerbaijan plane, or I don't know if that's officially what happened, but that's the theory, right? They shot down an Azerbaijan plane. They're, cutting cables in the North Sea. Russia has conducted acts of sabotage worldwide, including acts of air terror against airlines, the Polish Prime Minister has claimed. Security officials have said the parcels that exploded at logistic depots in Europe were part of a test run for a Russian plot to trigger explosions on cargo flights in the US. The explosion occurred in depots in Britain, Germany, and Poland in July. Speaking at a press conference in Warsaw alongside Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, Donald Tusk said, "The latest information can confirm the validity of fears that Russia was planning acts of terrorism in the air, not only against Poland." He did not say what acts he was referring to or elaborate on the contents of the information. He probably doesn't have security clearance to reveal that to the populace. The Kremlin has dismissed previous Western claims that Russia sponsored acts of sabotage and attacks in Europe. Azerbaijan has also accused Russia of unintentionally shooting down an Azerbaijani airliner that crashed at Kazakhstan on Christmas Day, killing 38 people. Mr. Putin apologized for what he called a tragic incident following the crash, but stopped short of acknowledging that Moscow was responsible. Well, why do you apologize then? The pro-European Union government in Warsaw said that Russia is pursuing acts of hybrid war against Poland and other Western countries in retaliation for their support for Poland's neighbor, Ukraine, in its struggle against Russia's full-scale invasion. The Russian embassy in Warsaw and the Russian Foreign Ministry did not reply to requests for comment on Mr. Tusk's statement. Elsewhere during the conference, Mr. Tusk vowed to use his country's presidency of the EU to push towards the Ukraine membership quest. Poland now holds the rotating presidency of the European Union, the 27-member bloc that Ukraine aspires to join. And Warsaw will have influence to put the issue high on the agenda for the next half year. It comes as Russia launched a major ballistic and cruise missile attack across Ukraine, targeting energy infrastructure and compelling authorities to shut down the power grid. Mr. Zelensky said the Russian forces launched over 40 missiles during the morning attack and used more than 70 drones overnight in a new barrage against the struggling power system in the depths of winter. That's a freaking war crime, man. It's not, but it should be. Or maybe it is, I don't know. Not that Russia cares about war crimes. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed it launched a strike on critically important facilities of gas and energy infrastructure that ensure the functioning of Ukraine's military-industrial complex. It didn't give the target location or other details. The barrage came a day after Russian Defense Ministry vowed a response to what it said was an attack on Russian soil using multiple Western-supplied missiles. The capital, Kyiv, also came under attack, with hundreds of residents taking shelter in underground metro stations across the capital, sleeping on yoga mats and sitting on folded chairs with their pets. Ooh, it must be freezing cold down there as well. The governor of Ukraine's western Lviv region said 2 energy facilities in Dovbyk and Styi districts were damaged. In neighboring Ivano-Frankivsk, the governor said air defenses were fending off Russian attacks on facilities. Russia has stepped up its bombardment of Ukraine's power sector and other energy infrastructure since 2024 March, knocking out half of the available generating capacity and forcing long, rolling blackouts across the country. Russia and Ukraine exchanged 25 prisoners of war each after negotiations mediated by the United Arab Emirates. For Zelensky, he thanked the UAE, which had brokered similar swaps before, for its assistance in making today's event possible. This was also reported with the help of Reuters and the Associated Press as well. So there you go. Russia's slamming down on Ukraine, but also for some reason having might have petty little terrorist attacks on other Western nations because they're helping Ukraine defend their borders. How dare they? How dare they?
Yeah.
So I guess, you can only hope, especially with the U.S., that Trump will take that seriously. Probably not. So I would, avoid logistical areas and airports, I think, for a while. If he's planning on bombing a bunch of cargo airplanes, which I don't like, maybe. Yeah. I'm worried. I'm not telling you to hide under your bed, but I'm not exactly confident Trump will be able to quell terrorist attacks if they are happening. But maybe if he just becomes Russia's puppet, there won't be any terrorist attacks, and then he'll just do whatever Putin wants him to do. If he's not already doing
Russia's
that already.
Puppet. He's already going to basically destroy whoever gives him money, puppet, or who can blackmail him.
That's my story.
Okay, well, from Russian weirdness, which they're always being kind of non-social to other countries, trying undue influence. On to our obituary for Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. So I found an obituary I'm going to read. This is from nationalreview.com. And maybe we'll just we'll read some of the reactions of famous people also. Bob Uecker, this is from National Review's Al Bethke. Bob Uecker has moved to the front row. Mr. Baseball taught us about the sport. He told us stories that made us laugh. He informed us what was happening, and when it was important. Bob Uecker, legendary announcer, entertainer, and former Major League Baseball player, died Thursday. He was 90. Known for his deadpan wit and self-depreciating stories, Uecker will be fondly remembered by all who know him. He was a backup catcher for his years in Milwaukee, St. Louis, and Philadelphia, and Atlanta. A solid defender, though a 200 career hitter, a fact he managed to bring up often and always with a smile. That said, he managed to win a World Series from the bench. After his career ended as a player, he joined the Milwaukee Brewers radio booth in 1971, where he called games for the last 54 seasons. He also worked national games for the ABC, NBC, including the postseason. He was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2003 as a recipient of the Ford C. Frick Award, which is given to the journalists. To many of his fans, baseball broadcasting was secondary to his work in entertainment. He appeared over 100 times on The Tonight Show, mostly with Johnny Carson, who gave Uecker the sobriquet Mr. Baseball. There are dozens of clips online of Uecker telling stories of his playing days to Carson, who would crack up and often have trouble catching his breath from laughing so hard. He was in many commercials for Miller Lite, starred in the Mr. Belvedere sitcom and the Major League movies, which are quoted so often to this day that it's difficult to believe they were debuted in 1989 to 1998. This is an excellent example of the timelessness of Uecker's humor. He was funny then, and he was funny calling games last season for the Milwaukee Brewers in 2024. Bob's catchphrase are numerous, and they will be repeated long after his passing. In Major League, after a young pitcher fires a pitch several feet from the plate, Uecker's character, Harry Doyle, dryly observes, "Just a bit outside." This has been said by a fan of every pitch that has missed the strike zone by a lot for the past 35 years, and it will be said long after we are all forgotten. One of the Miller Lite ads, when an usher removes Uecker from his seat, he looks forward to the field and says, "That must be in the front row." There's a cut, and Bob is next seen relegated to the near-empty upper deck. Milwaukee has obstructed view seats that are sold only the day of the game, lovingly called Uecker seats, as well as a statue of him sitting on a seat behind a pole. On many TV broadcasts, when returning from a break, they will show fans sitting in the seat next to Uecker's likeness, taking pictures and laughing. That's right. Milwaukee Brewers have two statues to Bob Uecker at the stadium. They have one outside the stadium, and they have one in the stadium, way up in the cheap seats. As a Wisconsin boy, Uecker's passing hits especially hard. Almost every day of my summers growing up was spent listening to Uecker on the radio. Now, of course, many of us watching most games on TV or DVR them if we were working. Last season, every single game was televised, and I missed only a handful. But growing up, games on TV were a rare treat. Perhaps 20 to 40 games per year were available. For us, the voice of Bob Uecker was our earliest memory of baseball. To this day, it is what we think of when Brewers baseball is mentioned. When my pinned post on X is Uecker calling a walk-off grand slam win a few years ago with his signature "Get up, get up, get out of here, gone" call. A sign in American Family Field flashes this beloved call after every Brewers home run. While he often told stories for laughs, in a close game or a tense moment, there was nothing but that particular moment in baseball being talked about. If the game was a blowout, that's when the humor and funny stories will be told, and it was glorious. Bob was the ultimate homer, and we loved him for it. He rooted openly for the Brewers and didn't care if that bothered folks. The disgust in his voice when an opponent made a diving catch or hit a home run off the cruise hurler was obvious. He wore his heart on his sleeve, and his emotions were part of the game. Bob Uecker is why many became baseball fans and remain Brewer fans to this day. Personally, one of my annual rituals is on or just before opening day. I watch Uecker's Hall of Fame induction speech. It is hilarious. A compilation of his best material. One of my favorite moments is watching great ball players like Joe Morgan and George Brett wipe away tears of laughter. Many have mentioned he never looks down at his notes. He didn't have any. He ad-libbed the entire speech. It encapsulates everything I love about Bob Uecker. After news of Bob's passing became public, my X feed can best be described as somber. Several people have admitted they are in tears. I guess the best way I can describe it is it's almost like everyone lost their grandpa on the same day. Bob taught us about the sport. He told us stories that made us laugh. He informed us of what was happening when it was important. We are better because of it. Thank you, sir, for sharing your talents and your life with us. And we'll do some tributes here. And this is from a compilation from Carrie Anderson of Yahoo Sports. Let's do the Brewers tribute. Uecker was the light of the Brewers, the soundtrack of our summers, the laughter in our hearts, and his passing is a profound loss. The Brewers said in a statement, "He was the heart and soul of Wisconsin and a dear friend. Bob loved people. His presence warmed every room, and he has a way of welcoming all of us into his world as we're lifelong friends." While his family said, while his contributions to the game are noteworthy, it is his kindness, humility, and love for family and friends that we will hold closest to our hearts, the Uecker family said in a statement. Milwaukee Brewers star Christian Yelich statement. No words will really do you justice, but I kind of think that's how it should be. To say you were one of one is probably an understatement. The stories you could tell, the life you lived, and the way you impacted people, Yelich wrote in a post. I always cherish our time together and just being able to listen to you talk about your life and all you've seen. I remember you saying that no matter how much time you have, it still never feels like enough, and that seems pretty true today. You'd always thank me for my friendship, but the truth of it was a pleasure. It was all mine. I will miss you, my friend. Tributes as fans. Shortly after Brewers announced Uecker's death, a statue outside of American Family Field became sort of shrine. The first item added was a single unopened can of Miller Lite, a reference to the Miller Lite commercial that, along with his appearance in Major League, grew Uecker's fame to a national level. At the base of the Uecker statue outside American Field, signs that say, "I must be in the front row." By the afternoon, the tribute was steadily growing, with fans adding flowers, more cans of beer, and other items. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers posted about Uecker's death. For more than 50 years, Bob brought the magic of the ballpark to life so many. I'm sure I speak for Brewers fans everywhere when I say we gladly would have had him for 50 more. He wasn't just a comedian and a great announcer. Bob was a man of character and integrity. Throughout his career, he made countless contributions to the history and culture of Major League Baseball, and he was active in giving back to our communities in our state. Boy, we are going to miss him. Actor, comedian Adam Sandler posted on social media, "What a guy. What a great part of our lives," Sandler wrote, describing the late sportscaster as someone who felt like all our dad's best friends. Comedian Bill Burr posted a similar tribute, calling Uecker one of the great personalities, broadcasters in sports history. R.I.P. Bob Uecker, one of the greatest personalities, broadcasters in sports history. One of the last guys from those iconic Miller Lite commercials. Former NFL defensive end J.J. Watt commented on the Brewers' announcement of Uecker's death. "Absolute legend, truly," Watt wrote. Of course, J.J. Watt is from Pewaukee, which is just outside of Milwaukee. "An absolute legend. Rest in peace. Thanks for all the memories." Beyond baseball, Uecker was involved in the WWE as a commentator in the 1980s, and he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2010. WWE acknowledged Uecker's legacy in a post on social media. WWE is sad to learn that legendary baseball play-by-play announcer, well, that's not a very touching tribute, but they mentioned it. They mentioned that he passed away. Robert George Bob Uecker has passed away. That's not very touching. Former wrestler and current WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, wrote on his own posts in honor of Uecker, "One of the most entertaining voices ever and an even better person. Rest in peace to a WWE legend, Hall of Famer, and great friend." Hall of Fame first baseman wrote about Uecker on social media. R.I.P. Bob Uecker. "No one made the game and telecast funnier than you. Your one-liners are legendary," Thomas wrote. "We will miss you dearly." And former Brewers pitcher Dan Plazek, a three-time All-Star member of the Brewers Wall of Honor, posted about Uecker on social media. "Thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of the one and only Bob Uecker. Lived an amazing life, brought smiles and laughter to so many people. He will be deeply missed." There's your eulogy. There's your remembrances for the funniest, one of the funniest people on the planet. And I'm not kidding. Really, really funny. And never, ever laughed himself. Totally deadpan. Was never enjoying his own jokes. That's what made him funny.
The deadpan
People
master.
look at Johnny with a serious, just a serious face, and Johnny would crack up. And just stay cracked up, and Bob would sit there with a stone face, totally serious about what he just said. Anyway, baseball. I always took a chance, if I ever get a chance to listen to Bob Uecker on the radio. He didn't do every game anymore. He was still only doing radio for the most part. And last year he did very few games because he was getting cancer treatments, but he would get chemo and go to the game and try to do the game. Sometimes he couldn't. And he did actually get to do radio broadcasts in the very last game of the season. Unfortunately, the Brewers lost that game because it was the playoffs. But anyway, there's your story on Bob Uecker passing.
Well, time for another eulogy, because we have David Lynch also passing away, but at the younger age of 78. Terrible. And we've got this eulogy, or I guess, I don't know, disposition about him from Peter Bradshaw, who he considers the great American surrealist who made experimentalism mainstream. This is on The Guardian. From disturbing debut Eraserhead to his masterpiece Mulholland Drive, Lynch's dark tales combined radical experiments with everyday Americana. No director ever interpreted the American dream with more artless innocence than David Lynch. It could be the title of any of his films. Lynch saw that if the U.S. dreamed of safety and prosperity, and the suburban drive and the picket fence, it also dreamed of the opposite, of escape, danger, adventure, sex, and death. And the two collided and opened up chasms and sinkholes and lost highways to happiness. Lynch was a filmmaker who found portals to alternative existences and traveled them in like they were erogenous zones, moist orifices of existential possibility. He was the great American surrealist, but his vision was so distinctive that he became something other than that. A great fabulist, a great anti-narrative dissenter, his storylines splitting and swirling in non sequiturs and Escher loops. Lynch was unique in that he took a tradition of experimentalism in movies such as Maya Deren and Alexander Hamid's Meshes of the Afternoon and brought it to the commercial mainstream, mixing it with pop noir, soap opera, camp comedy, erotic thriller, and supernatural horror. Who did Lynch most resemble? Maybe Louis Buñuel from the pioneering 1920s, Douglas Sirk from the Hollywood's 1940s, Alejandro Jodorowsky from the counterculture of the 1970s, or maybe Edward Hopper, whose painting Office at Night has something Lynchian to it, or Andrew Wyeth in his mysterious Midwest tableau, Christina's World. But Lynchian could as well mean mainstream or even conservative. Lynch himself was not joking when he talked about his pride at being an Eagle Scout in his boyhood. And he could direct conventionally plotted, if generically freaky films, such as The Elephant Man, with John Hurt as the exploded Victorian fairground attraction, and his adaptation of Frank Herbert's SF standard Dune, and even the emotional gentle The Straight Story, whose title concedes its outline quality, based on the true story of an old man who drove his lawn tractor from Iowa to Wisconsin to visit his estranged brother. Lynch was always passionate about Americana, and Steven Spielberg shrewdly cast Lynch as the Western movie legend John Ford in his film The Fabelmans. Yet, with films such as his disturbing, sepulchral debut Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive, I've definitely not seen Mulholland Drive, but I think I read an essay about it during my master's degree. A dark fantasia of Hollywood despair, he showed that the challenge to normality was itself erotic. He underlined it with a throbbing and groaning sound design and inspired musical scores from his longtime collaborator, composer Angelo Badalamenti. He was milling around at the Cannes Film Festival after the first show of Mulholland Drive in 2001, all dizzying and jittery at how very sensual and strange it had been, how witty, how erotic. Perhaps most remarkably of all, Lynch's ongoing small-screen project, The Twin Peaks, anticipated by decades today's cultural prestige of streaming long-form television. And in fact, none of today's Sopranos or Mad Men matched Twin Peaks for auteur television. Watch the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks from the 90s, the story of a straight-arrow FBI man, played by Kyle MacLachlan, investigating the metaphysical mystery of violent murder, and see how the second ends with a promise to pick up the story in 25 years' time. And it actually did. The brightly lit, theatrically soapy look of 90s TV drama was replaced in the 3rd season by a darker, gloomier look of a 21st century high-class TV production. But it was Lynch through and through. There's a quote here, but I'm trying to figure out who says the quote. Oh, yeah. This whole world's wild at heart and weird on top, wails Laura Dern's distraught Lula in Lynch's Wild at Heart, anguished in her wretched motel bedroom, pregnant with her lover's child, that is the convicted killer sailor, a Presley-esque figure played by Nicolas Cage. It's actually not quite a description of the world as Lynch sees it. It's the macabre Blue Velvet from the 1986. The world is normal on top, weird underneath. But these layers can't exist without each other. A clean-cut guy, played by MacLachlan, walking home in a suburban American utopia, finds a severed ear on the ground. A symbol, perhaps, of the director's own hypersensitive perception of underground stirrings in the hidden Americana. Soon this man is to conceive an obsession with a nightclub singer, part of Lynch's own theatrical rituals, and his particular rapture for the red curtain, rippling and stirring with the mystery it conceals. A Freudian image, yes, but maybe Lynchian in the superseding objective. Lost Highway in 1997 was one of his doppelganger hallucinations, in which Bill Pullman's troubled sax player and his wife Patricia Arquette
What's
are
going on?
terrified by an anonymous tormentor who leaves video cassettes on their doorstep with footage outside of their house. An idea later borrowed by Michael Haneke in his movie Hidden. But Mulholland Drive is still the masterpiece of eroticism and despair. A brilliant riff on how, in Hollywood, the disillusion is a toxic waste byproduct of a dream factory. The relationship of Naomi Watts' saucer-eyed, ingenuine, and Laura Herring's enigmatic, troubled woman is one of the great fought friendships of modern American cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Lynch... what's the name of the author again? Peter Bradshaw only met Lynch once, and that was online. A video-linked Q&A for the unveiling of his photographs of the Photographers Gallery in London. One of the questioners was someone who had been a walk-on in the Elephant Man, and Lynch was instantly hugely excited and insisted on her being brought up to the platform so that he could see her face. He could hardly be persuaded to not simply make the rest of the evening his reminiscences with her. Lynch was always plotting ways to smuggle his audience into a new territory of fear, desire, and pleasure. So, rest in peace, David Lynch. Too young, only 78. That's still pretty young for me. Now that people are living to be 100, 78 doesn't seem old enough. 96, right? With I already forgot his name. I'm so bad at remembering names. The great baseball announcer. But Lynch died at 78, leaving behind his...
About 96.
Odd films that you can go see. Just go look him up on IMDb and watch all those films and enter a surrealist Americana dream where you can see the American dream be realized while also the hidden deep spookiness underneath being revealed throughout the film. That's famously what he does, I suppose. It's not all clean and shiny and bright and new. Sometimes it's dark, dirty, and messy. That's my story. On to this day in history.
Okay, back. Rest in peace, David Lynch. I saw the movie Wild at Heart was pretty good. Mulholland Drive was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a kind of a mindfuck movie kind of thing.
That's his thing. It's surrealism, right? It's supposed to mindfuck you. That's what it does.
Well, okay. So anyway, in this day in history, 1706, Benjamin Franklin was born. If you don't know what Benjamin Franklin is, well, I don't know what to tell you. So it's Benjamin Franklin's birthday.
You know that $100 bill? He's that guy on there,
Yeah, the guy in $100 bill. It's all about the Benjamins. 1734, Augustus III was crowned King of Poland. So happy thing to him. Coronation Day. 1820, English poet and novelist Anne Bronte, sister of Charlotte and Emily Bronte, was born. Good for her. She was born. Al Capone was born this day in 1899, American gangster. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. 1917, United States purchased 3 of the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, from Denmark for $25 million. I've actually been to all 3 of those islands. Yes, I'm a world traveler. Oh, yeah, I'm special. 1922, American actress Betty White, who is best known for her comedic work, wasn't born. So happy birthday, 103 to Betty White. Happy 103 to Betty White. 1929, the cartoon character Popeye the Sailor Man, known for his love of spinach, made his debut, appearing in the newspaper comic strip Thimble Theater. I will spare you the Popeye impersonation. In 1931, American actor James Earl Jones was born. We just said goodbye to him a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones, whose deep resonant voice lent an air of gravitas to many roles, was born in Arkabutla, Mississippi. 1942, Muhammad Ali was born on this day. Muhammad Ali would be 80. Muhammad Ali would be 83 today. Muhammad Ali was born in Louisville, Kentucky. 1943, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt met at Casablanca for the first time. And though Humphrey Bogart was not there. In 1961, in his farewell address, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower gave his famous speech where he warned the United States to guard against the acquisition and unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. That's right. He felt that if he left unchecked, it could undermine American democracy, which it has, by the way.
Yep.
Long time ago. But Ike came up with that phrase, military-industrial complex, which is still repeated to this day. 1991, Harold V became king of Norway following the death of his father, Olaf V. 1995, a large-scale earthquake struck the Osaka-Kobe Hanshin metropolitan area, killing an estimated 6,400 people and causing major damage. 6,400 people in 1995. That was in Japan, by the way. 2008, American-born chess player Bobby Fischer passed away in Iceland. So he became the youngest grandmaster in history when he received the title in 1958. He was a little, let's say, eccentric. He might have been a tax refugee or something in Iceland. He had to leave because he wasn't paying his taxes or something like that. But anyway, Bobby Fischer, the boyhood chess champion, which he was famous for being like really young and taking out Boris Spassky, who was the Russian bad guy, the Soviet dark whatever. In 2021, Alexei Navalny returned to Russia after recovering in Germany from an assassination attempt carried out according to an investigation by the Russian government, one of Vladimir Putin's most prominent critics. Navalny was arrested and imprisoned. Of course, he died in prison. It was a big mistake going back to Russia.
Mysterious circumstances.
Yep. In 1993, our featured event, 1993, the Hawaiian not 1993, in 1893. In 1893, the Hawaiian monarchy was overthrown. Acting for Hawaiian sugar interests and their American allies, a committee led by Sanford Bell Dole deposed Hawaiian Queen Liliuokalani on this day in 1893 and installed a provisional government with Dole as president. So a private company took over
So never say America never conquered anybody.
Over Hawaii. That's right. Dole pineapples took over the islands. Hawaiian Islands. Our featured biography is David Lloyd George, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, born on this day in 1863 in Manchester. Died March 26, 1945, at the age of 82 in Carnarvonshire, Wales. Other birthdays today, besides Al Capone, Betty White, James Earl Jones, and Muhammad Ali, it is also Jim Carrey's birthday. Jim Carrey, born in 1962, turned 63 today. Happy birthday to Jim Carrey. You know, the guy from Mask. Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, that guy. James Carrey, Canadian funny man. Happy birthday. Those are your stories. That's everything for today. Oh, no, I haven't done my national day. A national day today. It's National Hot Buttered Rum Day. Not sure what that's. It looks like it's rum and butter and cinnamon or something. So I've never had it. It's probably something you drink when you got a cold that just makes you drunk. And it's National Bootleggers Day. So two things about getting drunk today: bootleg whiskey and hot buttered rum. And it's National Classy Day. And then the National Classy Day, they have a picture of Betty White. So it's Betty White's birthday. So I think it has something to do with Betty White being classy. What does classy mean? I'm not exactly sure. And it's also Popeye the Sailor Man. So that's everything for today. Popeye the Sailor Man Day. Eat your spinach. It's January 17th, 2024. On Before Hot Buttered Rum. Hopefully it's before that. Good Lord, if you're drinking it now. Good night.
Sounds warm and cozy for sure, yeah. Great on a cold day.
Right to sleep.
Yep, right to sleep. This is Allison here from the Netherlands, and Raj, of course, from the United States, West Coast of the United States, as we finish up another week of Before Coffee and send you off to the nice and dreamy land of the weekend. Start one early, just on us. So we hope to see you guys next week on Monday to review everything that's gone on. and find anything that's we might have missed over the weekend for Mucking Fun Day. So make sure you're subscribed to the Allie and Rod channel. You have those notifications turned on so you know when we go live. Hey, comment down below either your favorite David Lynch film or your favorite Bob Uecker joke.
Bob Uecker.
Uecker joke,
Good
sorry.
Lord.
Bob Uecker joke.
Not that hard to remember.
If you have any of either of those. Because, you know, a lot of people haven't seen all David Lynch's films or, you know, heard all the jokes that ever existed. So, I hope you guys have a good one. Take care out there. And let's go to our mic drop moment.
You know, they tell you to go to Philly or LA, someplace where they tell you to go, that's where I go.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't matter what the game is, who cares? You know?
Yeah. Did you, just where you go where they send you?
Well, after the game, I always thought it was much more important than the game itself, you know?
Right.
Pound the streets a little bit,
See what's cooking.
take a little action.
Hey, when you were a kid, did you have a dream of being a Major League Baseball
Pick up a
player?
little action.
I mean,
Yeah.
say someday I'm going to be playing in Yankee Stadium or...
I think every kid does. I think, I didn't only want baseball, I wanted track and field too, I guess. I think I was the youngest kid in Milwaukee to participate in a hammer throw. A manual training teacher
The youngest kid in Milwaukee.
zapped a ball peen hammer at him one day.
Did you like...
No, but the javelin throw, I liked to throw the javelin when I was a kid. And the neighbors used to get upset about
Javelin
that.
throw is really scary, man.
They had a shingle house, it'd stick right in there.
Yeah.
But the hammer throw, I threw a 16-pound hammer. I was 15 years old, freshman year in high school. I threw a 16-pound hammer. I was the youngest kid in Milwaukee to throw a 16-pound hammer.
Yeah.
And about 8 minutes later, I became the youngest kid to wear a truss in Milwaukee,
That
too.
was the same. Well, you shouldn't start too young with sports like
Yeah,
that.
it blows
He
you up.
started young.
First, you can't sit well, and were you injured like a lot of ball players? They always seem to retire because of injuries. The elbow goes or the legs go. Were you plagued by any injuries when you played at all?
I think for me, it was more my hands than anything else.
Well, you were a catcher.
Yeah. You know, you go in a bar after a ball game and you're sitting there 3-4 hours popping a few, and sooner or later somebody's going to step on your hand, you know.
Never thought of that.
Infected,
He's passed out on the floor.
infected earlobe. Makes your head lean over a little bit. You're vulnerable to the inside pitch, you know.
Right. But watch all this.
Take one up
Yep.
in a coconut once in a while.
Right. Did you ever do any commercials like the ball play? Now, that's a big lucrative business for ball players. They can make almost, you know, a top star can make almost as much on television, I understand, on commercials as he can from playing baseball.
I think the thing that aggravates me now about commercials, see Leo DeRocher, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra,
Yeah.
doing that, the commercial for Jock Itch, which years ago you couldn't talk about, you know, you
Jock
couldn't
Itch.
say things like that, and Jock Itch was a problem. You know, when I played, it was a league rule you couldn't touch yourself. And, I think the guy that
He's just making that up.
He's just saying, yeah.
well, you can't, you know, Mel, Jock Itch is our clubhouse guy.
Spits out his drink.
The guy in the
Mel Brooks
guy in the clubhouse
has a
is the
spit
guy
on
that
his
causes
coffee.
it.
Yeah.
If you didn't
He
pay
doesn't
your
even
dues on
react,
time,
right?
or
He's
if
just
you're a
like,
little
yeah,
late
that's
with a
normal.
tip, like when they did your laundry.
Right.
Instead of rinsing the soap out, they leave the soap
Leave
in
the
there,
soap
you know.
in there. And,
Yeah, like the next day, you know, you start running around, you start sweating a little bit, man. I'm telling you, you know,
bad.
bubbles start coming out of your pants.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.